Haha, we are live again. Hello, people. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. So long getting back. So sorry for not being active for quite some time now, and due to some like personal reasons, I was about out for some reasons, and I was not able to get connect with you all. My sincerely apologies, but yes, taking a break always brings something special. And here I am with the series of sessions called a Software Engineer's Life, a day in a software engineer's life. I was always wonder that I have been always encountering with a lot of questions that how I should get into Red Hat or what I should do to get prepared for like getting a job or land a job in Red Hat, what I should do as a college beginner or what I should do being as a professional, how I should upgrade. I always correlated to one of the sayings that you notice means like if your car or if your bike stops or like if your engines misfire, there could be many reasons. And what you the best possibility to get it correct, what you're going to do? What you're going to do is you go to mechanic and get it checked and get it repaired. So ultimate the solution is if your attempts for any single things are failing, the only possible solution is to check with the process experts. And while I was framing out this particular session, I was related that, hey, if I need to describe the software engineer's life, I should actually go to the right persons, or I should say the right identifier, or I should say the right experts. And luckily, working in Red Hat has given me this open culture, always a push that yes, when you are belonging to an open source organization, people are always open to share their ideas, their learnings, their experience. I reached out to few of the experts, and what I was able to pull out the best of best solutions for you. It's day one, and today I have someone with us to share their experience. The journey got started when she was in the engineering college. She started doing the open source contributions. She is a blogger, she's a music lover, and after like continuing from the contributions journey, she attempted interview process at Red Hat. She got selected as an intern, and now she's working as an associate software engineers at Red Hat. Or I should say, I should not describe much about her. Let me bring her on the screen. She is a very good friend of mine and a particular person to whom I should say I correlate to more because she is also a speaker at many national and international conferences. She loves to speak with students. She loves to motivate everyone. And moreover, she is actually an ideal person to tell you that why open source contribution is important and getting connected to communities is always a winning stroke for every single individual out there. So I bring on screen our friend, our speaker for the day, Manaswini Das. Hey, Manaswini,
Hey, hi,
cheers, and
thanks.
thank you so much for accepting the request. Hi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I
Absolutely.
don't consider myself an expert, but yeah, I consider myself a learner.
No, definitely you are an expert. So, Manaswini, coming back to the part, so how this open source world relates to you? Do you believe that yes, open source is something that is very much close to your heart, just like I feel?
Yeah, I do. The thing is, when I started off in my college life, open source is something that has defined my life, I would say, because
Hmm.
my first job is in an open source company, and I would seriously want to continue working in open source and contributing to open source and get paid for it. So open source
Yes.
for me is somewhere in which a platform in which the source code is available. I mean, all the softwares, all the things that you're interacting with in your daily life is available to you to look at, and
Yeah.
understand how the things work under the hood, and get to understand how the world class software is prepared and all of that. So I would say open source means a lot for me because my first job is in an open source company. So yeah.
Definitely, I can correlate to that joy as well because I also work in Red Hat, and this is my first company as well. So, working in the leading open source solutions provider always give you that immense pleasure that yes, we are surrounded by a lot of motivators, a lot of learners, or I should say, a lot of contributors. So, Manaswini, I would ask you the very first part, and before I ask, I want to tell all our viewers that whatever we are discussing is purely our experience and our learnings. It's nowhere that Red Hat or any of the organization is influencing us to say these words. What we are trying to say is, yes, this is what we have learned, we have implemented, and moreover, you can also do the same to get some good results out there. Ultimately, we are not pushing anyone, but yes, this is a joy, this is a learning that we want to bring on. And second most important part, guys, please feel free to post your questions for Manaswini or even for me if you wish to. And towards the end of session, we are going to pick a lucky winner to whom we are going to give the giveaway, and that could be some special goodies out there. And moreover, for the entire week, every single speaker is gonna give some of the cool goodies to you. So keep posting your questions, whatever your doubts are. So let's get started. Okay. So the very first part, Manaswini, I always encounter with this question that, hey, okay, contributing to open source is fine. Open source is all about getting the source code open. What do you think that who all can contribute to open source?
Okay, so to start with, anybody can contribute to it, irrespective of your age, class, gender, your country, region, anything. uh, just don't think that any barrier is there. You can I have seen people on Twitter who have started their software engineering life after 40, after 30. So they are exemplary figures, and that's something that I really feel very proud about, that this is such an inclusive community and people are welcoming people to join the software industry, even the open source industry, with open arms. And they are easily, easing in into the industry, and they are able to share the same knowledge, share that same level of community importance with us. So I would say that there is no bar of anything. Even if you're a mother, uh, you are doing a side job as well, you can always pursue open source, or do anything. You take up an open source or learn anything out of open source, and be a developer if you wish to.
And always this point comes up that people think, or I should say moreover, the people or the students who are just starting their career, they always think that only a developer, means who is a hardcore coder, can only contribute to open source. Do you agree to this particular part?
No, absolutely not. Because when I started off in 2017, I didn't know anything about open source. Okay, so there were people who were discussing tech all around me, and I was like, okay, this is some rocket science, some cool rocket science that they are talking about. So I really wanted to take partake in it, and I wanted to know what they are talking about. And being a computer science student, and being a student, I think you should always be curious about what people are talking about. It may be something of that you want to know, and something of your importance, or maybe of some importance in the future. So you should
Mhm.
always be curious and always have ears for these new terms that crop up. So I would say that you can do anything. You can be only contribute to documentation. That's completely fine. I've come across leaders in Python community as well. And they take pleasure, even if they have contributed code, lots of code to core Python, they still take some time to contribute to the documentation, even just be it just just correcting the typos, the typographical errors on the documentation, or just fixing a broken link in the documentation is a great deal. So I have
Yes.
something that I would like to share.
Sure, sure.
uh, yeah again, thing is, I won't don't want to preach more. I want to know the know what questions you have and answer as much of it as I can in the short period of time. So I won't preach much, but certainly would like to discuss some answers to questions that I get on a daily basis.
No, sure, sure. Definitely, we'll take it on. So, you just rightly mentioned that contributing to open source also required a lot of like significant changes, means talking about the documentation. And you rightly mentioned that if I'm a beginner and if I want to get started, definitely the very first thing I would be looking would be the documentation. And to write the
Yeah,
documentation, you need not to be a developer,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
You
I
need to
believe
know
the
English.
students,
That's it, or any other
yeah,
language. Yeah,
or even yes, the other language, because it's all about creating the families all across
yeah,
the globe. So even
yeah,
if you are good in Hindi, or like let's say Marathi, or let's say Telugu, or the across the globe language, Mandarin, Spanish, French, German, people are even welcoming all those participants out the globe. So all the students who are watching out these sessions, even if you are good in one of the languages, Why don't you go get in touch with few of the experts, and let's say, and even I believe Manaswini just shared something which I believe you can correlate, that what role you can be behave as a contributor, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I totally
please.
agree to what you said.
Hmm.
So, so the first thing that comes, everybody thinks that open source is code. So I would say that if you're qualified enough, or if you're learning, and if you want to contribute, you can always contribute to code. You can test the code. I believe there is a lot of testing sessions taking place at Fedora as well, and they always invite new developers to test and get an experience of how testing takes place. And you can always raise an issue. I get this question a lot of time, like, if I raise an issue, is that really a contribution and all of that? Yeah, it is, because you are actually reviewing the code that so many people
Right.
from different countries, from all across the globe have written, and you're actually testing it, and you're coming up with an issue, means you're trying to find an issue that they didn't catch while developing. So I think it's a great contribution, bug reports or raising issues.
Hmm.
And also, I would say the most easiest of all contributions is answering questions on a community channel. So
Yes.
one more thing I would like to share is about asking questions. Is I
Yes.
would say that first do your research. I mean,
Right.
first try everything that you can, that
Hmm.
is in the capacity of you, and then ask questions. And one more thing, one more pro tip is always ask questions in the public channel first. Don't DM people at first. I would say why.
Yes.
There is a reason, because people from different time zones are working, right, with you, so they
Right.
may or may not be available at one point of time. But if you post on a public channel, some people may share your time zone, and they may be able to pick that question faster and answer your question faster. So you have to make
Right.
sure that you reach to the solution faster, rather than focusing on who answers it. Even if someone else
Right.
answers it, is completely fine. I think that's one of the principles of open source. Like, who did it doesn't matter. The thing has to be done at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree to that particular point, that even when I follow my open source contribution etiquettes, the very first thing is I do my research, that is there any solution available, or let's say talking about correcting a bug, is there somebody who has already reported that bug? And never ever
Exactly.
I thought of like reaching out directly to an individual that, hey, I'm getting this issue, without having a complete description of it. So you rightly mentioned answering the question requires a lot of research, and even when you are reporting, that equally is important to follow some etiquettes and principles of doing the contribution towards the open source. Absolutely agree. And following it up, I believe, Manaswini, you would be the right person, because you have been contributing to open source from a quite while now, and you have been speaking to national and international conferences out there. What do you think that people take it as a wrong when it comes to free open source software and the open source softwares? Means
Okay.
I believe there is a question from the audience as well, who just asked about that, what is the future of FOSS? But I would like to say that before we talk about FOSS, let's talk about something related to open source software and free open source softwares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are two things. Whenever people think about open source software, they feel that it's completely free. I can totally, copy it. But
Hmm.
one thing that they forget is the license. It's very important. You have to read the license when you want to, use that open source code. You have to see
Hmm.
to what extent you can use that open source code. So make sure
Right.
that you go through the license and then try and copy the use, or at least use that open source project for any of your uses. And one more thing about open source that's very popular among the students is about open source programs. There is Google Summer of Code. There's Outreachy. I know the motivation factor for all the students is money, but I would say that your main focus should be involving in a community, because involving in a community is not just a 2 day or 3 day process, or maybe say for 3 months process. It's a complete, family like relationship that you develop with the community. It's somebody else who reports an issue, you are responsible as well to correct that issue or raise any issue that comes in your mind. So it's like
Right.
a give and take process. It's a mutual process. So I would say
So.
that even if
Mhm.
you're going for an open source program, don't go for the financial benefits only. Try and develop that community relationship with the community, and try and make the most out of it. And not for just for the sake of putting things in a resume. I would say that just sending a single pull request is a contribution, and it goes a long way. Just putting that the day when your first pull request gets merged or your first contribution gets merged, you'll still feel the same if your 100th or maybe 200th pull request gets merged. So yeah, make
Yes.
sure that you enjoy that thing about contributing
Yes.
to open source and not getting something out of it. You will get something out of it for sure, but make sure that you give and take as well.
No, definitely, you rightly mentioned, and that is the one of the like even the ask that I get like on a daily basis that hey, I want to contribute to Google Summer of Code because that programs offers you a lot of good
Yeah,
amount.
yeah,
So being a
yeah.
student, definitely that is a lucrative amount that you get. But according to me, you rightly mentioned that open source is all about creating families. So if somebody asks you in a family to do a work, do you charge? Absolutely
No,
no. You do it for a
exactly.
healthy relationship that you brings on. Like if your younger sister is, or I should say, I should not say younger sister, she is right over here. So if she asks you for a gift, you are not going to look at your wallet. It definitely that matters the most is her happiness. And similar thing happens. You rightly mentioned that you will feel good even if you have your one PR merged. So absolutely, it got start with one. So you get it. And talking about what is the future of FOSS, I guess creating your bigger and bigger family definitely going to help you a lot. So, yes. And coming to the part of PRs, the pull request, how do you think, Manaswini, that how individual can contribute to the open source world? Like what all you can contribute, you just explained it rightly,
Yeah.
and how the people can contribute to open source according to you, what would be that? And for all the people, please feel free to post your question, and we are going to choose one random lucky winner to get some exclusive goodies from the Reddit site. Yeah.
Um, okay,
Yeah.
thanks for putting that question. First of all,
Mhm.
I get asked that question a lot of times. So, um,
Mhm.
okay, so I would say the first thing that you can do is always learn the basics of version control system. I mean, how I
Yes.
get it. The first thing that you can do is always go to the documentation of the project. You go through the
Right.
website, learn the documentation, or at least go through it, read the documentation. Or if you know about version control platforms such as GitHub, Bitbucket, that's a plus point again. You can always go through the first page of that, the very first page of that site. You needn't read the code at first. Just go through the README, try and set up that system, go through the contributing documents, try and set up that system in your local system. And I would say that if it's an open source project, you're likely to encounter some issue or the other if you're a beginner in the very first setup thing. So even that can be a bug as well. So yeah, I would say the first thing to do is always go through the README and the contributing documents and try and set up that project in your local system and try to run that system on your own, and try to ask as many questions as you can. Don't be under a cocking that anybody will be judging me and all of that. It's a free community. We are free to share knowledge, take
Yes.
knowledge, anything. No one is going to judge you based on your level of knowledge, level of how much you know and all of that. No one is going to judge you about that. I think that's one of the best things of open source. You can be yourself completely. So I would say go through this and learn the basics about version control, how Git works under the hood, and then after you get started, try and learn some syntax of any language that you want. It may be JavaScript, it may be Python, it may be Java, anything that you love. It may be C++ as well. So I think that's one of the preliminary language that we get introduced to while in school. It may be C++,
Mhm.
Java, anything. Can try and learn deeper about the syntax and then try and read through the syntax. Like I would say that when you understand the language, when you started off as a kid, you first learned ABC, right? Now you're able to speak sentences. So I would say that
Yes.
it's actually very you can say surprising a bit if you look at how far you've come from being a child to
Yes.
being in a professional. So I would say that so yeah, if you understand that language a bit, it will be just like reading English for you. So you have to make some efforts, learn about the syntax, how each syntax works and what each syntax stands for, and try and play around it, try and see what even if you make a single change, try and see whether that change reflects in the way it works or something else. Try and
Right.
be very curious about what is this, if I remove this what will happen and all of that. So I would say that we all learn through the process of something that we read in chemistry, that is
Mhm.
you can say hit and trial method, right? So
Yes.
it's not always a hit sometimes. So I would say that as a beginner I always did that, but that's not something that I know do nowadays. But yeah, but I would say that the very first thing as a child is you can always as a beginner is always you can remove some part of the code and see how it works, and make sure that you know where the corresponding part of the code is in the
Good.
in the site or in the app, whatever. So make sure that
Right.
you do that. And then you can always take up issues, comment in the issues. That's very important. Many people don't comment and they directly come and do it, but that leads to a lot of duplication of efforts. Someone else might be working on it. So make sure that you ask it in the issue itself as to whether someone is taking this up or I should take it up and all of that. So even if someone has taken it up, don't worry, be patient. Just ping them after 4 or 5 days, and make sure that they reply. Otherwise, if they don't, try and reach out to the maintainer and the mentors of the project, the people who are actually taking care of
Mhm.
merging the pull request and all of that. And yeah, then I would say that try and establish a relationship with them. I mean, I would say that try and let them know that you are interested in their project. I think that that's what matters the most, because for generating that interest you need to be curious. If you keep on asking questions, they come to know about that you're interested at least. So that's the, I would say, there's nothing to lose. Actually, you can absolutely go ahead with it. And no one is going to be rude to you, so don't worry.
No, absolutely. You rightly mentioned taking the baby steps is always important. And
Yeah,
while doing the contribution, it is equally important to understand the VCS, because that is where how you are going to reflect the things, right?
yeah,
That okay, I learned the part of code, how I'm going to take the backup of the code, or I should say how, if I'm going to change, is it not going to be that directly on the code that I'm going to change, because somebody has taken a lot of efforts to put that code working,
yeah,
so you cannot
yeah.
go ahead and do it. So absolutely correct. So all the viewers, please note that part, that take some baby steps. Start with your learning of VCS, then go ahead and start talking about commenting on the issues, take the grab the first issues, and then slowly and gradually you can go ahead. So there is another question coming out, which I was also discussing, that which programming language will be helpful for contributing to the open source communities?
Okay.
What do you think?
I would, yeah. I would say that don't just blindly follow the trend, as because everyone is like, okay, Reactor is trending, so I must totally go ahead with that. So yeah,
Mhm,
that's this. We have this human, nature to follow the trend all the time. So
mhm,
don't go with that. I would say that try and understand what where your interest lies, as to
mhm.
whether you're interested in web development, whether you're interested in data science, whether you're interested in maybe graphic designing, maybe you're interested in AutoCAD, something of that sort. So there are different branches. So make sure that you understand what you want at one point of time. Just try and understand what you exactly want, and then get started with learning the open source languages. But if you're asking about the programming language, and if you really want to go with the trends or the number of projects they have in a particular language, I would say nowadays JavaScript is very popular. You can always go ahead with Python as well. But I would say that that's completely dependent upon the use case, because one language, because Python, I think it's widely used for data science. Even our programming is used a lot for data science. So if you're going for data science, you can do it with JavaScript as well. You can do visualizations with JavaScript as well. But if you want to go into data science, I would say that go ahead with Python or R programming. Yeah, so even if you want to go ahead with backend programming as well, there's Ruby, there is Node.js, there is even with Python there is Django, there's a framework. So it's not necessary that you learn the frameworks all in one go. Not necessary. Just try and learn the base language, like try learn Python, then you will be able to understand the Django code, and then you can go on to understand the framework, something that's
Right.
built around Python or JavaScript or something of that sort. So yeah, I would say that
So,
don't go with the trends.
so definitely not going with the trend. And you rightly mentioned the stream which you are picking up
Yeah,
has the different varieties of languages and it's their importance. So
yeah,
first of all, I should say how I see these things, or if I see this question, I would say I would look out to my interest. That if I am
Exactly.
interested in doing the data science, I will go for Python or something related to that. If I'm good in designing, or if I want to create a UI UX, definitely I'll be going to React and JavaScript and all. So it totally
Yeah.
depends that how you're going. Then second most important part is whether I'm gonna follow the trends or not. You rightly mentioned that in today's world, Golang is so popular. So you
Exactly.
cannot go ahead and wait for the time to come, learn, and then implement.
Yeah.
Simultaneously go ahead and do it. Okay, so according to you, Manaswini, the next follow-up question is from my side, that talking about the contribution, according to you, what are the opportunities available for all the students out there to contribute? Is there something that you can showcase to them or help them out? Yeah.
Okay, so I can think of, at the top of my head, I can think of open source programs. Again, they are not internships. They are just
Mhm.
mentorship programs. They will pair you up with a mentor and make sure that you contribute to open source, projects. So
Okay.
I would say that there are different stuff again about open source programs. I would say that they are the best places where you can find newcomer friendly projects to contribute to.
Hmm.
Again, I feel that whatever it is, it has been introduced, like Google Summer of Code is for students. There must be a reason why it is for students, right? I mean, it is, you can easily understand that it's for beginners. So make sure that you don't think about cracking open source, but think about how to contribute to the open source community and try and learn stuff. And after learning, money will come after you. It's like uh, the dialogue that we have in Three Idiots, right? It's like success ke piche mat bhago, excellence ke piche bhago, and all
Yes.
of that. So make sure that you excel and learn, gain that confidence in that particular language and stuff, and eventually you'll find your way through it. So there is open source programs. There is, if you are looking for if you're looking for single contribution benefits, there is always git pay and other platforms that's available. Other things, maybe, just try and participate in hackathons, maybe. I think it's
Hmm.
very popular nowadays, in which
Yes.
you and a bunch of your friends come across a problem statement, try and find solutions to a daily life. I think that helps a lot with brainstorming, because you are given within that tight deadline, like 24 hours. You don't have to sleep, you have to continuously work, and make sure that it's a working solution, or at least a prototype or something of that sort. So that
Yes.
pressure actually fuels your ideas and your way of thinking about around a problem statement. So yeah, hackathons, there is always meetups and conferences that you should be looking forward to as a beginner, to join. I think even if you don't know Python, you can always you know uh, get get started with some meetup or conference like PyCon. And for JavaScript, or if you're there are, I would say, there are always a range of talks for the beginners, for the advanced level developers, for everyone, I would say. So even for documentation, I think there are talks for documentation as well. So make sure that
Yes.
you attend those talks that you're interested in. Don't just go around the booths. Also go around the talks and just jot down the points that you come across, like some terms that you come across. Maybe someone told nginx, try and just jot that down somewhere, so that you come and Google it and get to know about the technology more. About OAuth, suppose how the sign in thing works, sign in with Google thing works, or
Right.
things like that. So try and be curious, try and be attentive to what is being spoken about. And other things like I can come across, I can talk about is fellowships. There is
Hmm.
fellowships by Processing Foundation. Again, you mentioned about contributing in different languages. So there are always a lot of internationalization issues coming up for converting the documentation to a particular language. And so even I participated in one such fellowship, that's from the Processing Foundation. So yeah, I converted a part of the documentation to Hindi, so that the tutorials and the website is available in Hindi for people who are learning to code. And at least and I would not say at least, it's like learning to code for visualizations, especially for visualizations. If
Great.
you already come across stuff like p5.js, that's a part of processing community. So yeah. So yeah, That's all.
No, definitely. These programs always help. And I am a big fan
Yeah.
of attending the conferences because it's not always about like sharing your knowledge, but rather than receiving the knowledge from the other's end
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Because it is a two-way process. You share your
Yeah.
knowledge, but at the same time, you love to hear from others that what they have been doing. You just pointed out one part that internationalization is the equally important because talking about the different people living across the globe might not be efficient always in English. They will be
Yeah.
requiring certain their native language. And yes, over here in India, डेफिनेटली यार क्यों नहीं हम हिंदी में भी बात करें। अच्छा, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन चलो मैं हिंदी में ही लेता हूँ। तो मनस्विनी, जैसे आपने बताया कि हम
Hmm.
लोग बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम्स अवेलेबल हैं, या हम लोग बोलो कि बहुत सारे फेलोशिप अवेलेबल हैं, बहुत सारे कॉन्फ्रेंसेस अवेलेबल होती हैं। आई गेस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट होता है टू अप्लाई इन दैट फॉरम्स, या मैं बोलूँ स्कॉलरशिप्स, या मैं बोलूँ कॉम्पिटिशन्स। और वहाँ का एक सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, एंड आई गेस वन ऑफ माय व्यूअर्स हैज पुल्ड आउट दैट क्वेश्चन, सॉरी, वन ऑफ द व्यूअर, हमारा एक व्यूअर ने ये क्वेश्चन ले लिया है। हर्ष ने क्वेश्चन बोला कि व्हेन समवन वांट टू जॉइन द ओपन सोर्स प्रोग्राम और कम्युनिटी, देयर कम्स अ क्वेश्चन, व्हाई यू वांट टू टेक अ पार्ट इन दिस प्रोग्राम और लाइक दैट, व्हाट टाइप ऑफ आंसर्स टू गिव देयर। तो आप अपने व्यूअर्स को यार इसके बारे में प्लीज थोड़ा गाइड करो कि ऐसे क्वेश्चंस को एनकाउंटर करना है तो व्हाट यू शुड बी कीपिंग इन योर माइंड। या
Um, I would say that life हमें सिखाती रहती है. Like if you're attentive enough, you will learn from each and everything around you.
यस।
Even from a machine or from a living being, anything, be it an ant or so. So I would say that answering that is completely again your personal choice. मैं बोलूंगी नहीं कि ये आंसर करो तो तुम्हें मिल जाएगा and all of that. So again, that's something that's very that is completely a personal opinion, because they see that whether the content is plagiarized or not. Again, so even if I say and you write it, it's gonna they are gonna detect that ये तो fake रहा
यस।
है and all of that. So yeah, so why you want to take part in such a program, and that I would say that try and focus on the learning part more. I mean, before you actually start that open source mentorship program with some particular project, you always have this 1 month of time to actually contribute to the project and get to know about the code base and all of that. So make sure that you make full use of that time, and make sure that you learn and kindle your interest around that project. And फिर आंसर करो कि तुम्हें क्यों पार्टिसिपेट करना है प्रोग्राम लाइक दिस. आई वुड से दैट सबका पर्सनल मोटिवेशन होता है. सो मैं तो किसी को बताऊंगी नहीं कि ये तुम्हारा पर्सनल मोटिवेशन है. ये सबका पर्सनल होता है कि सबको किसी को सीखने के लिए करना है, किसी को बस रिज्यूमे के लिए करना है. वट एवर इट इज, आई डोंट वांट टू डीमोरलाइज देम. Those who are doing that for the
राइट।
resume as well, that's completely fine, that's your personal choice. And yeah, so I would say that it's a personal opinion, but why you want to take part in this program like that, I would say that to be curious and to learn and to maybe get started or have a first step in the industry maybe.
राइट।
ऐसे आंसर्स होने चाहिए is what I feel.
यार मतलब दिस इज सबसे सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है मतलब कन्वर्सेशन का कि व्हेन यू आर पुटिंग एनी आंसर, you should be honest to that particular part. Okay,
Exactly.
I want to
Yeah.
put it for a resume part, it's fine. If I want to be learning, if I have a learning attitude, why not to just express that yes, I am curious to know about this product, I want to learn. So I hope Harsh, you can get the answer, and thanks for bringing that part up, that while putting down the answers, it is equally important to being honest to yourself first. Right. So Manaswini, there is a very good question coming from Rishabh as well, that Manaswini, what was your first PR about? How do you feel when it got merged? Yeah.
Okay, okay. So
Uh-huh.
I would say that when I started off in 2017, so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, what to do? There was Hacktoberfest coming, so many people won't actually believe it, but Hacktoberfest was my first experience or first introduction to open source. So I
Okay.
remember I sat with my sister and I was like, okay, let's participate in Hacktoberfest. And he's like, I don't know how to code. I'm not gonna do that. Then I'm like, okay,
Yes.
let's just read the projects, right? There were some projects there in the Hacktoberfest website. So I went there,
Yes.
I just clicked on some projects, I tried and read the documentation. If that was interesting enough, I tried and set up that system. I didn't know it, to be honest. I wasn't able to completely get to the end of the documentation as well. In some flies, someone was telling about terminals, because I was not even introduced to Linux as well. So I was like, what
Yes.
is a terminal? So what do we do about that? So yeah, that's something that you come to know if you have friends. who actually tell
Yes.
you about it, like, okay, this is the terminal, this is like the crux of a Linux operating system. So all of that. So yeah, so my first PR was about I think it was about the easiest thing, okay, but it was about maybe just correcting a typographical error from a of yeah, yeah, or just fixing a broken link, something
Yes.
of that sort,
Yes.
broken link, yeah. So
Mhm.
did that, and I just raised an issue like, this link is not working, about getting started link is not working, what am I supposed to do with that? So I was like a bit of irritated, like, if the getting started link is not working, what are they doing? And all of that. But I shouldn't have gotten that. But in due course of time, I learned to be patient, because that's how open source communities work.
Yes.
Because with family members, you don't say if someone doesn't do the work, okay, mothers are different. But yeah, if you someone doesn't do the work, you don't get angry upon them, you try and persuade them to do that work and all of that. So yeah, my first PPR was about correcting a typographical error or fixing a broken link, something of that sort. And when it got merged, when I saw that purple wala button in GitHub, it was on GitHub. So I was like ecstatic. I was like, ये तो in that filmy wala bhasha मुझे kick मिल गया. I found the kick of my life. Okay,
Absolutely
so
true.
it felt like winning a game, I would say. Winning a
Mhm.
game. I don't play a lot of games. I used to play, but it feels like winning that hardest game that you've been doing, because I feel that when you starting is the most hard process, the hardest of all.
Yes.
Because even in physics they say, right, like, the most friction that you have to encounter while starting is when the horse starts off with the cart.
Yes.
That's the most amount of
Absolutely.
resistance that you get in the beginning. If you overcome that, everything else will be kind of a little bit smoother. It will be ups and
Mhm.
downs, I would say, but I would say when
Always.
you take that first step to start, I think you conquer half of the battle.
Mhm.
So yeah, thanks Rishabh for asking this question.
ऑसम मींस मेरे को अब समझ में आ रहा है कि आज 2017 में आपने अपना करियर स्टार्ट किया जस्ट बाय कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू हैक अक्टूबर फेस्ट एंड हु नोज एंड टुडे यू आर शेयरिंग योर like learnings that why it is equally important to contribute to open source. It's just being approximate 3.5 years of journey and look where you landed up. तो मेरे ख्याल से मैं एक ही बात को हमेशा मानता आया हूँ कि एक्सपीरियंस से बड़ा गुरु कोई नहीं है
Yeah,
क्योंकि
thanks.
एक्सपीरियंस आपको तभी होते हैं अच्छे हों बुरे हों डजेंट मैटर जब तक आप स्टार्ट नहीं करोगे कैसे होगा राइट तो अब हम स्टार्ट की बात करें मनस्विनी एंड व्हाट डू यू थिंक आई हैव समथिंग आई बिलीव यू हैव समथिंग फॉर आवर ऑल व्यूअर्स दैट व्हाट आर द अपॉर्चुनिटीज अवेलेबल not just talking only about Google Summer of Code or the outreach or the Hack October Fest. Do you want to share something that, hey, these are all the things? I believe you have already shared. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yes.
so I think I
Mhm.
covered some part of it.
Yes.
If you think that you know a particular thing and you want to mentor, you always you can participate as a mentor as well in mentorship programs, and always it makes way for a lot of new ideas, because you come across an open source project, then you're like, ये तो मैं भी बना सकता हूँ, and try and develop it in a different language, or just try and I would say that don't reinvent the field completely. Like, don't just redo the whole process completely. If you want learning, that's fine. If you are not learning and you are at a stage where you can, get past that learning stage, so make sure that you don't reinvent the wheel. Just make use of the project. Go through the license first again. Make use of that project and try to, solve some issues around it, or try to uh, remove some issues altogether, or try to add a completely new feature to it. So that's, I
Mhm.
think, one of the merits of open source, one of the opportunities that's there, but we can't see it because we are like, ये तो हो चुका है, मैं क्या करूं इसका, and all of
हाँ
that.
जी.
So I would say that don't reinvent the wheel. Try and add a completely new issue, completely new feature to it, and try to make it simpler for the people, something of that sort. I think that's something that we should focus on as well as developers, like how to make it more simple for the user, not for the developer, but for the user.
Yes.
Again, other opportunities, I would say learning के बहुत opportunities हैं. There is, you can get to know about best practices in programming, I would say, because that is being, you can say, reviewed and used by people from all across the globe. A lot of people are using it. So that is why open source, again, the question that one of the viewers sent, the future of open source, why is it so secure? Okay, I shouldn't be taking this up, but I will take this up.
Sure.
Microsoft, sorry. I would say that when Windows, you get a lot about, you can say, uh, uh, about antivirus software, right? You always have to install an antivirus software, but with Linux users, Linux operating system users, they're like, what is antivirus altogether?
I
So
always
yeah,
get so good because I haven't used Windows since very like approximate 8 years, and I feel that I have saved a lot of money by not just installing an antivirus, or at least on my machine. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yes.
sorry, Microsoft people, but yeah, I had to put this up. So again,
No.
what's the difference you can say about that? There is Linux that is open source, but Windows that's not open source. There are other examples as well. At one point, Internet Explorer was the most, you can say, most hated browser because उसमें कुछ नहीं चल रहा था. And but with Mozilla, but with Chrome, there is another. If you are not aware about that, there is a Chromium open source project. That's the open source. Not
Yes.
really, I would not say an open source version, but one of the parts of Chrome. So if you are willing to contribute to Chrome as well, you can always contribute to the Chromium project. And if you want to contribute to Mozilla as well, that's great. You know the browsers, right? You know Mozilla, uh, Chrome. So you get to know why these things are more popular than Internet Explorer. Now that there's no problem because Internet Explorer is kind of reaching an end of life. But yeah, so again, about the recent trends, if you're talking about trends, there is Signal, there is WhatsApp. Again, closed source versus open source. So you can see the clear differences. Signal is open source, by the way. I came to know about it last week only, and I was like, what is the Signal thing that everyone is talking about? Why is even
Yes.
Elon Musk posting about it? And
Posting
suddenly
about.
I'm like, okay, and tried. I just googled it and just found it on GitHub. I'm like, okay, I got it. I got it. Why is it so secure and all of that? Because a lot of people are coming up with bugs. Because since a lot of
Yes.
people are using it, they're coming up with bugs faster, and the bugs are getting solved faster. So that is why it is very secure.
Correct, correct. You make the point very interestingly correct that when people start learning, or when people start contributing, or I should say when they are exploring any field, then they will explore that okay, these were the issues and these are the things that we need an improvement. So you just talked about like when you go and like in a conference to attend, or as a speaker or as a viewer, when you are at a speaker stage, definitely you have certain more responsibilities on your shoulder. But I would say you don't restrict only to a speaker. That was just for a time frame.
Yeah,
Go and interact with the like-minded people, and that is equally
yeah.
important, right? And then the best practices are always there. There is a very quite interesting point on the presentation part, Manaswini, talking about the git pay. Do you want to tell our viewers a bit more about that?
Okay, so I would say that GitPay is a platform in which you can find issues to contribute
Hmm.
to, and they pay a small amount if you solve that issue and so on.
Yeah.
So it's like $10, $5, something of that sort. So there's an
Hmm.
issue, and they pay the users who can solve that issue and all of that. So again, there is one more thing. There is bug bounty programs. I didn't mention that.
Yes.
For people who think that finding bugs, finding issues is not a contribution, people actually getting paid for that. So I have found a lot of people on LinkedIn who post about bug bounty programs by great companies, maybe like Google, Adobe, something of that sort,
Yeah.
and they get paid a lot. So if money is your motivation, again, bug bounty programs is your go-to thing. But you have to have some knowledge about security, about how
Yes.
APIs work, about all of that. So just try and rack your brains around it, and I would say you can try and solve some issues on GitPay. And even there is one more thing. One more website. I don't know whether the users get paid for it or not. It's called Code Triage.
Okay.
I had signed up for that, so I still get some some messages around it, some reminders around it. But yeah, so there's Code Triage if you want to find newcomer friendly issues. So even there are many websites for first timers as well. There's called firsttimers.com, first timers only, first timers hacktoberfest, something of that sort. So you get
Yes.
some keywords around it. If you are just typing first time contributing to open source, you always come across these websites that make you aware of the newcomer friendly issues. As you mentioned, the labels like low hanging fruit, labels like beginner friendly, newcomer friendly, beginner, easy,
Beginners
something of that
issues.
sort.
Yes.
Yeah.
My first issues. Yeah. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
No, definitely. So,
Yeah.
people, I believe now you have a lot of opportunities out there. You just go and connect and reach out to you. And also, means in respect of time, I would say that Manaswini, I would love to take one more questions from the audience waiting coming out from Sachin Kumar. That is OpenShift and OpenStack certifications useful for an RSCSS certified fresher 2020 graduate who is interested making career in DevOps or MLOps field? Yeah, your take on that.
Okay, I would just say a few lines, but I would
Mhm.
say that Gaurav is the best person to answer this because
Oh
he
God.
is a lot. He has done a lot of certification, so he can tell you the exact thing. But I will just tell one thing, that even if you're learning something, make sure that uh, have some projects around it, or at least you can show someone that you have done this thing, so that try and implement it practically. Don't just learn it and keep it to yourself. Try and build some projects around it, and try and make some implementations around it so they can show the people. If you're talking about freshers, I'm sure that you're going to look for jobs, or maybe start your own startup, whatever. So you would definitely be asked questions around that certification, or something that you have built using that certification knowledge. So make sure that you make use of that certification knowledge to implement something or to build something. So I would say Gaurav is the best person still. He
No,
can give you more insight
luckily,
about it.
I'm definitely proud. Even I am today, I'm wearing my Reddit certified architect T-shirt. I would say the part of this, Sachin. First of all, try to understand that DevOps is a mindset. It is a culture. It is not a
Yeah.
technology to be adopt to be make it as a career. So first of all, to be a developer and the operational fellow who is going to bridge that gap for an organization, the most important part is to learn the basics. You rightly mentioned that if even if I'm certified, what I have done out of that certification is
Yeah.
something that the people will be looking for. So if you are a fresh graduate, I won't say that you should not go and do the certification, but I would say that learn from the certification, create something, project, or I should say something significant that can show the value that, okay, what I have learned in this certificate, I have implement over here, improve your Git profile, put down the post, show it to the people. Not that from this guy, I learned this thing, I cleared the certification, and that's all. No, you should keep on adding the values to that learnings that you have been doing. सो दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. मतलब होता है वो है ना कि यार सर्टिफिकेशन करने से हम कई बार है ना एक अर्थ का अनर्थ कर देते हैं. मतलब मैं सर्टिफाइड हूं तो मुझे ये आता है नहीं. वो मतलब नहीं है. सर्टिफिकेशन का मतलब है यू आर सर्टिफाइड. नाउ आई एम अ रेडिट सर्टिफाइड आर्किटेक्ट. दैट मीन्स आई हैव क्लियर्ड 7 certificates and I have implement the knowledge of those 7 different technologies and build this project. And that's where I justified this title, right? So for a fresher, definitely you should do the certification. No harm in doing that because you will get an extra edge over the others. But at the same time, build the projects, build something out of good out of it, so that somebody can definitely get help because you are fortunate that you are able to get certified. Share the knowledge that you learned during that certification process. So that is most important, right? So that's the part. So I would say that yes, we are restricted with the time, and every single day, people, we will be talking all about this because this is what a software engineer's life is all about. So let's take one more question, which I am finding it very, very good. So Manaswini would be the right person to give that answer to Ritesh. That is competitive programming is necessary to contribute to open source.
Okay. So my take on that would be no. Very clear answer, because if you're contributing to open source projects that are a repository, suppose you're contributing to a repository of that houses the implementation of different algorithms. Uh,
Mhm.
then I think you need some knowledge about competitive programming. Otherwise, you don't really need a knowledge of that. You can just contribute to the documentation. You can uh, just go around the code and try and set up that software on your own, and do some other stuff like write blog posts as well, like
Yes.
about how to get started with some particular technology, how to get started with suppose DevOps, how to get started with OpenShift, how to get started with Kubernetes, how to get started with Docker. So yeah, I would say that even if you have some particular implementation and some specific implementation or some specific knowledge that you want to share, try and share that in blog posts. And even if you're into competitive program, that's completely fine. I think that's one of the preliminary, you can say, preliminary steps that we face while looking for a software job. So I faced a lot of interviews, so I can totally agree that competitive programming is necessary so that you get a knowledge of the basics, you can say. So yeah, make sure that you, if you're learning it, make sure that you're learning the crux of it, like how the algorithm actually works, not just remembering the syntax and just, telling that to the interviewer. I'm pretty sure the interview will try and put questions all around it, like how a linked list works and all of that. Even if you are writing linked list, even if you are just remembering it, you won't be able to explain it. But if you understand how that linked list works in the backend, so then you will be explaining it faster. Even at Red Hat, I would say I first faced one competitive programming round as well. So I would not say that it's not important. It is important. And there are other companies as well who don't even ask for competitive programming. But yeah, I would say that since it's all around the industry now, it just gets you gives you some preliminary knowledge, some basics about programming. So if you're doing it, that's fine as well, but it's not necessary to contribute to open source.
Yes, I would say even coding is something that if I'm supposed to like kill something, I would kill coding because I'm not a hardcore coder, so it's fine for me. So that is my take on that, but no problem. You explained it absolutely correct. So people, if we are not able to answer your questions, please don't misjudge that part. It's just a respective of time that we don't want to like take much of your time. Please feel free to comment in the video. Just go in the comment section, Manaswini and I'll personally take care that we answer each and every single question that you put it across. Please put it in the comment section of thing, or even you can connect to Manaswini, and the description of this video have the Manaswini connects for LinkedIn. Go ahead, go there, post the questions with the proper doubts, or else just leave a comment in this video section. I and Manaswini will take the care, and I will just simply get back. One of the interesting part that Hertz just posted that message, the message is Portraj
Exactly.
misses you. I guess that can correlate to you.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's something that I get regularly because that's something I signed up to in the beginning. I would say back in 2018 or something. But yeah, I get this all the time. But I think that that's a great way to, you can say, a tactics to actually get
Yes.
you back to that app or something. I think a lot of apps use this, but code triage is something good. If they say GitHub misses you, then it's gonna create a havoc as well. Okay, GitHub misses me. So yeah, the code triage is, if it misses you, I think it's a good thing. Even they say that in Swiggy and Zomato as well. I think you get messages around them as well. It's a tactic to get you back to the app. But
Right,
yeah, if
right.
it's working,
Definitely.
that I think that Texas is working then.
So, Manaswini, that's, I believe, with respect of everybody's time and interest, we won't take much of your time as well. First of all, thank you so much for accepting my request and sharing your valuable learnings that why open source, how open source you can contribute, what is the importance. And I believe people have now a fair understanding that working at Red Hat definitely helps you when you are contributing to open source. If you are an aspiring person to get placed at Red Hat, do look out for the opportunities speaking at the conference and every single place. If we have missed any questions, guys, do leave a comment in the video, and me and Manaswini will take care of that particular part. Manaswini, the most interesting part now, we promised that we would give one giveaway. Do you have a lucky winner name, or you want to take that part?
Um, I'm not
Okay.
sure. I don't remember all the questions, but I think there was one
Uh,
long question. I remember. I don't remember the name exactly. I think it was one really long question, um, related to open
something
source. But
related.
yeah,
Was this the question? Because the very first long question was this.
yeah. This.
It
Why you
was
want to
some
take
right.
part in this program or like that? It was a long
Okay.
question. That's all I remember. I don't have a good photographic memory, but yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So Harsh is our lucky winner for the day. So Harsh, definitely congratulations for winning a first goodie of this week. And I believe, Harsh, what you can do is just drop an email to me by saying that, hey, I was the first winner for the Cheers with Gaurav session in the series of like I should say this one, a day in a software engineer's life. So do just drop me an email on cheerswithgaurav@gmail.com, and I'll personally take the responsibility to get it delivered for you. Congratulations, Harsh, for giving that particular question to us. So Manaswini, I won't take much of your time. Two words or simply few advice to all the viewers that you should contribute to open source or why community is important. Just your take, final words from your side, please.
Okay. I would say, first of all, thanks, Gaurav, for having me today. I had a lot of fun answering a lot of questions that I get on a regular basis. So, I would say that I'm not, you can say, a Baba or something to give you knowledge, but yeah, I can give you some points so that you can try and be motivated for doing something that you love. So, first of all, I would say that be curious. I think that's a very important thing about doing anything. If you're not curious, you won't be able to get around it and get started with it. And the next thing will be just be at it. There will be setbacks, but doing what you love is worth fighting for, right? So even if you have like lots of trials and tribulations, even if you're not able to make time for it, make sure that you try and take some time out for doing things that you love, be it drawing, be it painting, be it programming, whatever. Make sure that you have some time for it. And of course, about this pandemic thing, that made us realize that the things that actually matter to you are free, like family time. With the family, make sure that you spend some time with the family. Make sure that you don't completely engross yourself in your work and think that work is life. There is love apart work apart from you can say life apart from work as well. So make sure that you define clear boundaries. I would say stay motivated and take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. And one more thing that I want to say is about um, stay motivated, keep yourself motivated, whatever works for you, be it just going through a TED talk, or just going through some animal pictures, something that is able to free your mind of all the tension that you have on a regular basis. Make sure that you free your mind and then go to sleep. And yeah, I would say that stay motivated, be at it, and yeah, be curious. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I would say that you just missed a point. If you want to stay motivated, you can always follow Cheers with Gaurav on YouTube.
Yeah, of course, of course. I totally agree to
Just
it.
kidding, just kidding. No, just kidding
Yeah,
on that part. Thank you so much, Manaswini, for sharing your valuable insight. Yes, being curious is always important. Staying motivated is equally important as well. Because once you start motivating, I guess no one can stop you out there. So, people out there, if we are not able to answer the questions, please feel free to drop a comment on this video, and Manaswini and I'll take the responsibility to answer that particular questions out there. Do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. The post for day 2 will be up and live just immediately after this particular session in another 5 or 10 minutes or so. Tomorrow, again, same time, we will have another associate, the fellow of ours, who is going to talk about another technology and give you his or own insight that yes, why it is important to contribute to open source and something related to that particular part. So congratulations, Hirsch, once again. Thank you so much, Manaswini, for sharing your valuable insight. Definitely we are going to have a lot of fun around working with the open source contribution. And as you just rightly said, somebody has pinged OP for you. Shiv has just done that. Some excellent remarks. And thank you so much, people, for like motivating me, Manaswini, and every team member of Cheers with Gaurav. And we are there to help you bring so much of good sessions. So once before we quit, let's have Manaswini OP in the chat, people. So thank you so much, Manasini, for accepting our request and doing this session for us. I hope you had a great time, and all the
I
viewers,
did.
you also enjoyed the session that we did. So thank you so much, Manaswini, for giving us this part. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For all the viewers, the next post for day 2 will be up and live in another few minutes. Thank you so much for attending our session today. I'll see you tomorrow with another exciting associate and a session lined up for you all. And let's say, keep contributing, keep sharing, keep learning. Don't stop here. Thank you so much, everyone, for being the part of exciting session today. Thank you so